And then if I click on, Canaanite Shemite, it talks about, what is that? Kingdom of Israel. All right, can y'all hear me? Somebody just put in the chat if you can hear me. All right, great, thank you. Welcome to Mamleket Kohanim. We're doing the workshop about finding your roots here in for your African relatives, or if you're just interested in how to find out on how to do it or what we're about. Thank you for also coming as well. It's just why I have this up. Oh, there's some more. Some more people joined. Supposed to be 20 something. So please forgive me if I have to stop and add some more people to the room. But just for the start, some of y'all not familiar with the ministry. We are a nonprofit, and we have a YouTube page where we share some of this information. If you just go to the videos, you will see some of the things that we do, and interview some of the African tribes that's there. And you can find out, this is the Limba elder. We have an elder in Zimbabwe who shares a lot of the information and tries to get things kind of worked out in reference to the African Hebrew or African Israelite perspective. So we have some from the workshop and some for the airway. So we have a lot of stuff there. And then we also have playlists here for different external views. These are not our views, but you can actually review and hear from, different communities of Messianic Israelites or African Israelites. It's just basically community awareness. And these are Hebrew Israelites in Israel. They live in Dimona. Then we have the American Hebrew Israelites, Black Church, Christian Church. They have some references. Jews of color, those are people usually a wider base of minority Jews in their information. We have the Black Jews, and it's just basically Jewish discussion in Israel and all around, or educational as well. So that's To the Prophet that you heard there. So we have a lot of different information and things out there for you to get some information. And we also have we have our regular Shabbat services as well. Whenever we have a service, we try to record live to stream them as well. All right. I still see people coming in, but I'm still waiting for them to change their name so I know who they are. So also we have a Facebook page. If you have Facebook, this is where we actually update a lot of the information. You get the same type of, try to put whatever we have on the YouTube page here, promote, stuff around the workshops. And we also put some of the, promotional stuff, just pictures from events and things of that nature, or information about, some of the tribes that we're researching and doing things for as well. All right. So that's Facebook. We do have Instagram, but I'm not that familiar. Well, we have somebody helping one of the younger people with Instagram. I don't know Instagram that well. So they help us periodically to promote and put stuff there also. All right. Let me see. I don't know who these. Hold on for 1 second. Let me let them know to update their account so I know who they are. All right. So just to present as well, let me present my slide just to get us going. Can y'all see my main slide? Looks like my man in Africa with a gun. Can you see that? What happened to my chat here? Can y'all see my slide? Okay, I think I can see it. I can see it from right where it is. All right. So this is the African, what we call Ivri. Actually, the Hebrew word for in Hebrew is Ivri. There are some tribes in Africa that we descend from. They're called the Ewe or the Ewe or the Ivri tribe. So we call ourselves African Ivris. Genealogy workshop. And for some of you that might not be aware of some of the things that's been going on, so this is a Duke University book from Alan Godbey, and this is around the 1930s. He talks about, well, they actually, in this article, they're referring to his work. You can see it's like $1,000 some to buy a book. I actually got a copy, which we can review, but it talks about the study of custom and rights and analysis of the semantics of these African tribes have led many of their observers to propose some hypotheses and even to draw some conclusions. Dr. Alan H. Godbey reached the following conclusions. These factors have a very specific significance if we consider the presence of Judaism among the American Negroes. Hundreds of thousands of slaves were transported to America from West Africa during the trade, which started some 400 years ago, which traces of Judaism still remained among the Negroes of West Africa at that period. To the extent that some were persecuted, they were more likely than other Negroes to be seized during wars and sold as slaves. It is virtually certain that many part Jewish Negroes were among those sent as slaves to America. So this is the map that he has of the different groups that he basically found. And there's a whole organization, the International Society for the Study of African Jewry. It's a community of scholars and students engaged in the study of African Jewry and its diverse cultures, historical environments, religious beliefs, and practices. And this is their map of the different Jewish tribes. And, you know, we start mapping over my DNA over that, you can see there's a lot of overlap, right? Even with some of yours as well. So that's where we is trying to do. And there's also other groups. This is a Jewish group that's actually going and finding the lost tribes within West Africa. They're doing a documentary about it. And we want to also use our own resources to, you know, make sure that we are able to share this information with our community, where in the past, they, you know, some of this information is not shared with our communities. So we want to make sure that this stuff is being shared. And this is the reason why we have our nonprofit as well. So you can see other organizations, Jewish Voice Ministries, they actually raise money and, you know, send stuff to the different African Jewish tribes. And even in the I-24 news in Israel, they talk about African Americans and their connection to the lost tribe. So once again, we don't really hear a lot of the information. And it's not saying this particular ministry, but we also work with some of the tribes there, and we know who receives, you know, sometimes they don't receive some of the stuff that people are trying to send. And we, you know, want to be a good representative to make sure they get, you know, stuff like we do solar power, help extend wells, and help them get internet access to be able to communicate with other tribes and so forth. So this is the Mamleket Kohanim Kingdom of Priests and Culture and Heritage Preservation. We're a 501c3 ministry, and our objective is to preserve, support, and promote the culture, history, and heritage of the African Ivri people scattered worldwide through the diaspora. Our objective is to raise awareness and support to assist those who descend from the ancient African Ivri groups scattered throughout the globe with the desire to learn more about their history. The organization's efforts will be to connect with others of this heritage scattered through the world through education, research, networking, media, and charitable efforts. And that's where we get our name from, because when the Israelites went before Moses on Mount Horeb, we call him Yaz and Hallelujah, but it says, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, and that's Mamleket Kohanim in Hebrew, and a holy nation. So, you know, we promote not only our history, but also for us to live, you know, holy lives and, you know, bring families together and children and all those type of things as well. All right. So this is our website. If you're interested in helping, there we have some merchandise. We make like $5 off each sale, but it also helps us to get the word out. And, you know, that's been very helpful. And if you're interested in helping, we have a $25 membership. It's voluntary. And if you give, you know, if you basically sign up through PayPal to be a $25 member. We'll send you a shirt to show our appreciation. Or you can just go to the website and buy the shirt directly. And this is some of our contact, Cash App, and so forth. We also need volunteers for educators, program managers, logistics, researchers. There's a lot of stuff that we're trying to do. And we do have people that's helping us in many different capacities. But, the more the better. And I do work a regular job. This is just my volunteer, my dedication to what I'm supposed to do as my life is part of ministry. So, all right. So this is some of the information also that we went over last time. So this is actually our second conference. Does anybody know DJ? I'm not familiar with that person, so I can't accept them, but I didn't know if anybody else has somebody coming in with them. But this is basically my DNA. This is from 23andMe. And you can see they talk about how my DNA EM96 actually is common ancestors is EM96 may have lived in northeastern Africa or the Arabian Peninsula. So we know that that's in that area as well. So, there's different tribes that actually went that we basically monitor and see, about the migrations, which we'll talk a little bit about today. If you ever have a question, anything as well, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll try to get to you as well. Something's wrong with my little sharing here, though. Oh, there we go. All right, so I can see people here. All right. So, so we know that there's a connection. We talked a little bit about this the first workshop here. So we try to meet at least. Well, I guess it's been a little while now, but we have a WhatsApp group where we share information and people taking tests and doing some of the DNA to help us to get a better understanding of our history as a whole. These are the tribes that basically people sent to me. With their DNA tests after they took, what we did was, hold on for a second, I can show you. We took DNA, living DNA, basically took Ancestry, and then we uploaded to living DNA. And we have instructions, so if there's something you would like to do and you didn't get the instructions the first time, we showed people how to download their results from Ancestry, and then basically you upload it into living DNA, and there you basically sign up. And then basically it's like it changes from $25 to $30. That way you don't pay for the full test. The full test is $99, so it's a discount. And then once you upload your DNA into the site, it basically allows you to see some of your results. You hit purchase, it's $30 at the time that this was done. And so we try to, make sure you're able to see your DNA results and what regions and stuff, but it actually relates you to specific tribes instead of regions. So that's important for us to actually be able to understand where our DNA comes from and also being able to track it back to, their migrations of those specific tribes as well. So also this is post-slavery, remember, in colonization. So even some of these tribes have mixed with one another. So even though it says Yoruba, Yoruba is connected to a lot of different tribes like the Fan or the Ewe. A lot of those different tribes that's in that Togo land, what they call it. So even though it says Yoruba, it's a good chance it is, but it also could be mixed. So we take it lightly, but good enough to be able to know at least what people group that we come from. And then you see like Tikar and Mindy and so forth. And then we also compare it with other DNA tests, which I will review as well. So if you're interested in doing this, but we did this the first time around. So, catching up some people who might didn't attend the first time. So let me go back showing this. So this is some of the results that we received from the test. The highest occurrence are the ones in yellow. So Khan, you see even Arabia, Benbar, that's in Mali, but you see Cameroon, Bantu. So this is kind of like a people group, but I basically tell people to use these as like the Tikar group, because the Tikar are one of the main groups that came, and then some of the other ones spread from the Tikar. So a lot of them are connected to the Tikar group. And then the Isan, the Igbo, that's the Nigeria. A lot of people, if you just type in Igbo Jews, you'll see that's the largest group of, Jews outside of Israel, that's in Nigeria, and a lot of the people that come with history from Virginia were Igbo slaves. 60% of the slaves, around 60%, were Igbo slaves. So, it's a good chance that you have Igbo blood in you. And remember, in America, there wasn't a large number of slaves taken, at least from a historical standpoint, as there were in Brazil. So there was a smaller quantity of slaves. So, and they breeded slaves, right? They made slaves. So based upon, forcing the slaves to procreate. And so we might have multiple tribes in us, right? So a lot of people try to find that one tribe. And I keep telling people, you're going to be a mix of tribes, right? Because probably have Native American, which you probably see in my DNA and other things as well. But, we try to say, what is that main group or that closest relative that we also are looking for? And you'll see Lua. So that's actually in Kenya. So you'll see some connections even to the east coast of Africa, which is interesting. A lot of people don't realize that even through the, I think his name is Tippy Tip. He was a slave trader and he was African / Arabian. And he actually took slaves from the West Coast and brought them to the East Coast and sold them there through the the Indian Ocean, and even some of them actually got sent over to what's the place, Malabar, and is it Malabar? I think it's Malabar. Sorry, my mind. I was been up all night when I had to do the earlier service today, so I only had a couple hours of sleep, so I can't think of some of the places right now. But usually a lot better when my mind is straight now. But but they were sent from there, and then they were sent to America. So there was some, you might get some of the connections there also as well. So then you have Mindy. Mindy is actually in Sierra Leone. You'll see that they actually are cousins with the Tikar as well. So you'll see some of that. Semi-Bantu, which is kind of hard to say exactly, but you can count that this Cameroon area, kind of this larger region. So sometimes they not really sure, so they still put it in larger groupings. And then you have the Tikar and the Europa. So some of those were the main groups among like the 5 or 6 tests that people sent into me as well. And these are some of the surprising connections here because I didn't you see Arabia, right? So we just talked about how basically E1B1A DNA they said migrated from the Middle East and then went west. So it's very interesting to see that. You can see the Sudanese. I don't know what tribe this is. Somebody had that on their DNA. I thought that was interesting. So I'll be searching that one, as well as Kurlenji. I don't know, Nambia area, some South Africa. Somebody's doing some writing or something up here. Then you see Maghreb. So that's actually where the Northwest Africa. And they actually know that, there was some good number of Jewish population even in that area, as well as Arabian. So it's very interesting to see that there. And then South China, we even have some people with South. And if you know about the stuff that was going on, even with the trade of spices and stuff from South Pacific. So you'll see some of if you know anything about the Negritos there, or some of them were actually caught up in the slave trade as well. And some of them actually migrated through the islands to California, and some of them went there as well. So you'll, have some history there and maybe some connection with Californians as well. Wasamba, don't know who they are. Gave me some challenges there to look them up. And West Iberia. So we know that, Iberian Peninsula was during the time of the slave trade. A lot of people don't know that the first slaves that came to the Americas were Black Portuguese and Black Spaniards. So they were actually the first one. If you go to the Dominican studies, they will talk about that as well. There were the Lacandos, I think it's Lacandos, but they also integrated in Senegambia, and they were some of the first people to communicate for Iberia to Africa to work with some of the chiefs until, the king of, I think it's Portugal, felt like he was being robbed. So he basically told them to come back, and even some of them were sent as slaves, but they were known as the Black Portuguese Jews as well. All right. So, and then this is some of the tribes that I know for sure was connected to the Middle East. Let me see if I can get rid of this. Haitians. Okay. There we go. All right. So these are some of the tribes that was connected to the Middle East that I know from just the research. So, the ones in orange, I know, for sure. And then the ones in yellow, I think they were. So if you had that come up as part of your DNA results, these are some of the things that we've been searching and looking. And we do have some of the, talks about from Jerusalem, how some of the migration patterns and how they went in through this area. Each had is the Cameroon place, and then they broke off like the Yoruba tribe and others. So I think we went over that. I've met some cousins now that actually know that they're connections to the Wada tribe, and they also are from Darfur and from Saudi Arabia. They have some parents from here and some. So he actually is helping me do some research as well. He's actually a architect, data architect. I'm a data architecture manager. So, and he does great stuff and, looks up stuff for me. And so it's great to meet cousins over in Africa. And hopefully we can do the same from you as well. And we can see the Tikar people actually has on their website, they say that, the Tikar's ancestors lived a long time ago in the Arabian Peninsula in the area between Yemen and Palestine, which Palestine is, Israel as well. So we see how they migrated from Palestine to, or around Palestine to Yemen. And then they went to Sudan and to Egypt. And, they said they found themselves in Saudi Arabia. And then we know that, even in the history of the Israelites in 70 AD, that some of them actually went to Saudi Arabia and were kicked out. And then they went through Africa to Sudan and continued to go west. So a lot of those stories, the Jews of Timbuktu, this is Kalanu. They're a nonprofit for finding people who of Judaism. You have to actually have the religion of Judaism, which we're Messianic. We're a little different, but, they actually had articles about the Jews of Timbuktu. And you can even see the Tenderma, communities that actually migrated from, established in 1496. Tenderma was once a Jewish community founded by Iberian Sephardi Jews who had been expelled from Spain and Portugal. Jews' graves and structures still remain in Tenderma. So they actually migrated, after they got kicked out during the Inquisition, they ran down to Mali and they lived there, which a lot of other groups did as well. All right. So, with that said, so there was at the end of these instructions about going to GEDmatch. Some people use GEDmatch to find relatives and so forth, but there's some information there that's important. So we're basically telling you how to log in and, create your GEDmatch account. And this is where we ended last time we met. So this is important, but this is just how to upload your information, right? Stop at the point of uploading your information. So after you upload your information, what you can actually do is come here and if anybody wants to do this or has already done that part, just let me know and I can slow down or, let you get a chance of doing this. But once you come in here, what you can do is go to the free tools, because this is some free stuff here. When you actually go to Admit Your Heritage, you'll get this screen here. And what you can do, and I can put this in the instructions to continue some of the directions there from last time, but you can do the MDLP project, select that one from the list, and then you can hit continue. And then you can basically select here MDLP World here. And then once you hit continue, what will happen is you will receive something like this chart. And in this chart, this is my DNA. And you can see that it has some small percentage of Middle Eastern. So we don't expect a big percentage because we know that a lot of our relatives migrated over and lived a lot of time in West Africa for a few hundred years. Um, so we expect, to see like we see, even in mine, you should see mostly sub-Saharan, which is the greatest percentage. But it's interesting because, you can see Indian, in mine because, well, we talk about that later. I think we talked a little bit about that last time, about some of my family history. But the thing that's interesting when you come over here, it basically tells your relative connection. So who are you the closest to? So the lower the number, the better you close. And the first person that comes up is Limba. So as we saw in the beginning, if you were able to join earlier, that the Limba tribe is the one that they say, based on DNA samples from Duke University, from the UK, and from Israel, that they are having a certain well, they said the majority of the tribe has Semitic DNA, which is not very uncommon. But the Buba tribe within them, they have the Levite DNA. For like the Kohanim priests, right? Like Moses' brother Aaron type. He was a Levite as well. So they basically match with what they basically project to be a Levite based upon, analysis and how do you know, like, it's truly a Levite. But it's interesting because these people live in Zimbabwe and West Africa, and their DNA percentage was much higher than anyone else's. I think the normal, the most, I think, was the Beta Israel, the Ethiopian Jews. I think they had like 15% or something, from my understanding. But the Limba tribe, actually, the Buba clan of the Limba tribe, actually had, he first gave the first test, was like 60% or 40%. And it kept on going all the way up every time they try to retest to like 80%. And then they stopped and never gave them their test results over the last 20 plus years, that they're still waiting for their test results. So there's a lot of controversy right now with that because some people think that, they've been tampered with, right? Why, when you give your test back, it's been 20 years since you. So we're basically working with them and, just learning about our culture and seeing how we can support them and learning about what's going on because, that's our closest. A lot of us are closest relatives, right? And it's very interesting because not only did they have a tribes in the East Africa, but they also have some in West Africa. So there's a place called Limba in the Congo area. And we know that a big number of slaves at the very beginning of slave trade, majority of them actually came from Congo and Angola. So, very interesting that I think his name is Sebastian Limba. He's actually a Dominican hero, was one of the first people to revolt as part of the slave trade. And it was known that they think his mom was Limba. His dad was, can't think of the other tribe, Pabam, I can't think of the other one, but they also are known by Kalanu to also be of Jewish. Well, Jew and Jewish is a little different to us because Jewish means that you basically converted to the religion versus, a Jew or Israelite means you're a bloodline. So we say Israelite, just so you know the difference of what, our terminology is if you never heard it before. And so the Limba there is our relative, closest relatives. And then you see Bantu, which we know the Bantu were the ones that descended from both sides of Africa. Even the Congolese could be considered Bantu. And then you see Yoruba, right? Yoruba is actually, there's some Yoruba Israelites called the Beta Ephraim, House of Ephraim. So, and then you see Mandinka. Mandinka is also connected to some of the Songhai Empire, which actually we'll talk a little bit about as well. Lumbee is the North Carolina Native Americans, but a lot of people talk about how they might have been mixed with the Moors. It's not the fact that the Native Americans were Moors. It was the fact that a lot of the Moors left Israel. Some of them were considered to be, Moors as in Jew Moors, and some of them they are the Senegambian Moors or North African Moors. And they actually, as part of the war with the Inquisition, some of them were actually sent to America or they ran to America and integrated with some of the Native Americans. So that's why I think even some of those connections can, because if you look up Lumbee, and some of their DNA background. Somehow they connect to some of the Moors of Spain. But then you see Ethiopian, and then you see Moroccan, right? So this is interesting because as we go down this, we're going to start seeing a pattern. So we're talking about migrations as well. So you see Morocco, then you see Jew Ethiopia. So why am I connected to an Ethiopian Jew? And I don't know why they have two. I tried to contact them, and they said I had to contact the person that created this, and they never replied. But somehow there's two different Jews from Ethiopia, and I'm connected to both of those. Then Mozabite, that is actually in Algeria, I believe. So, that's an area in Algeria. And then you see Yemen, right? We talked about Yemen. So you can see how it's getting further and further away with history. So you can tell there might be a migration pattern that's happening, right? Or it's just I have some strange relatives that's in those areas that's just distant to me, which, I think is more of a migration pattern. And Puerto Rico, so we know that, a lot of the people, well, I even have Arawak, if you know about the tribes of Native American tribes that was down in Puerto Rico. So, Columbus, when he first came over, he, encountered some of their Arawaks, and basically they say that they were eradicated, but some of them say they just changed their census. Different people changed their census and got rid of them through like paperwork, and they're, some of them upset about it. But the Egyptians, you saw where it says they went through Egypt, Elephantine Island. Elephantine Island is actually a place where they actually have the only place outside of Israel that had a temple. So they had a temple in Elephantine, and there they have the documents still talking about. And then the Songhai of Mali that we talked about earlier, they said that they came from Elephantine. So it's very interesting, right? That they actually have the Jewish customs or the Israelite customs now, and then they actually migrated from the same places that show, a connection there as well. The Milwaukees, I don't know. There's some Native Americans out in California. I don't know much about them, but I see that in a lot of people's tests. And then you see Jordan and Mexico. So Jordan is actually where the Limba say they migrated. They say they migrated from the Jordan area, and then they moved down the coastline to Ethiopia. Some of them went to Ethiopia, and then they end up being in the Zimbabwe, Malawi, and the Mozambique area. I think they ended up Mozambique. There's a Sena tribe, and these names, Sena and Limba, is in the Bible. If you go in the Bible, you'll see some of the variations of these names, or even Sena in itself is one of the tribes in the Bible that they say the historical line that say they come from. So it's very interesting. And a lot of slaves in earlier, when they first start getting pulled from Congo, they start taking them to Mexico. So the first slave ship, well, at least the British colony of 1619, was intercepted by the White Lion, and they were Portuguese, or some people say Spanish, enslavers, and they were taking the slaves to Mexico from Angola. And that was the boat that was intercepted and taken to Jamestown. So it makes sense that some of the slaves actually were taken to Mexico. That I don't know if people know about Afro-Mexicans, and they were treated horribly up until a couple of years ago when they couldn't get equal rights. But we can see that, from Jordan to, Yemen, that's where the Limba tribe say they came from. And then they continue to migrate. Or even you start talking about from Jordan to the Algeria, Ethiopian Jew to Algeria to where was Morocco, and then Yoruba said they came from some of the Beta Ephraim say they came from Morocco, and they said that they are the Ephraim from the Bible, tribe of Ephraim, and they moved to Nigeria. So it's very interesting to see how a lot of the DNA kind of matches up with some of the things that we see there. All right. Let me see. I want to make sure I give time for some questions. I don't want to know I talk fast because I'm trying to get through a lot of information so I can show you how to actually search for your DNA like I have. Any questions so far? Did anyone have? You can put it in the chat or raise your hand. Let's see. I don't see anybody hand raised so far. All right. So let me continue to going. All right, so this is the Indian DNA. I think I told you about that. They wrote a book about my family, the Dove family, and how one of the royal families and Coach Behar was taken as slave after a coup. taken to Maryland, and from Maryland, that's going to be important as part of this as well. But they were taken to Maryland, and they found favor with the enslaver, and then the family ended up, the man died, and then my ancestor, she was raped, and her son was sold and became a breeder to one of the early colonies in Maryland. And after a while, the Indian family found us, the royal family that came to America. She named our family Dove after the slave ship that she was brought in on. And, her name was Maharian, I think Mahariani. That means queen or something. And she basically, they basically changed her name to Mary, or, basically add as a negative Malagamo, which is terrible, which they talk about her a lot in Craven County. Genealogists talk about her. So Cynthia Marlowe wrote a book about it. And basically, after the royal family found her, they basically in Maryland petitioned the court to set her free. And she was about to get her freedom, and the family kidnapped her and took her to Craven County, North Carolina. And the royal family found her again, and they set her free there. And from there, we basically was released early, like 1700s in slavery. We were released early in time, and they bought us a lot of land, but it was a disgrace to the family, to the fact that the women were taken, so they didn't bring us back. But one of my cousins, he's over there in India, and he saw where it says, our family name is on their board of the royal family, is one of the descending families. So it's interesting that they still documented it, even though, but they build a lot of temples and stuff, and, said something about us coming back. But that's going to be important and later on. I thought I saw somebody's hand come up, but must have went back down. Make sure I'm seeing it right. Yeah. So, that's going to be important for later. But that's the one of the castles that she came from that they found. All right. So you can see the same thing. So this is living DNA. You can see the same type of thing, Iraq, Pakistan, Yemen. You can see how my DNA is, at least from their test, is coming up in this area. Now I'm thinking that this is some of the connection back to India, but a lot of our DNA is coming up, and I think some of yours would do the same. Denise hand. I raised my hand. Denise, you got a question? Let me see. Let me let you. Oh, somebody hand just left. Let me see, Denise. Asked to unmute. Can you unmute, maybe?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Hazel. She raised her hand for me because I didn't know how.
Oh, no problem.
I had just said, did you say if GEDmatch has a price or a cost?
A GEDmatch doesn't have any cost for the free tools.
Okay.
So the free tools is the reason I try to use as much free stuff, because I learned the hard way by, taking all these tests, and, that's, but I was able at least to write it off in taxes. I created a business for it, and that way I could do as much research as I want to. So I did a tax write-off anyway. So, but yes, it's best. I try to use as many free tools as possible. So GEDmatch is one of the good ones. And it does more than what I'm showing, because you can actually, it doesn't restrict you. Ancestry will restrict you based upon the number of generations. So I think it's 5 or 6 generations back. It won't let you go further than that, even though you have relatives there. But yes, so if you're interested in that, I can put up some more instructions for that as well. But that's a great tool.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll be interested. So if you ever do it, let me know if yours come out as limbo or what, and we do some more research with those. So thank you for asking. Cousin Hazel, did you have a question as well? I don't see it. Y'all can put it in the chat as well. That's why I can see it in the chat. If you can't raise your hand, just put it in the chat, and I'll respond to it in the chat. All right. So, but yeah, so even in, this is living DNA, it says, originates somewhere between the Red Sea and Lake Chad in East Africa, right? The Red Sea and Lake Chad is somewhere, where am I? Yeah, I think this is the Chad area, if I'm not mistaken. That's Nigeria. Yeah, I think that's the chat area. I'm not used to looking at it this way. So, but while they said Red Sea, so there's the migration that we talked about earlier, that even some of the other people talk about. And even it says the E fall line most likely originated either within East Africa under Underhill and Kisalid or within the Middle East, Arabia. So, we know something had to happen there. All right. All right, so let me just show you some of the other tools before I'll start with, let me close this out so I know what I showed you and I didn't show you. Um, so this is just my heritage, and they changed a lot. It used to have a lot of Native American, but now I kind of took it out. But you can see now it used to didn't have any Portuguese. Now it says 4.1. So like I said, a lot of the um, slave trade actually started in Portugal. I actually have a great great grandfather that was a black Portuguese as well that came over in the 1700s, the Miller family. So I know some of my family up here is connected to the Miller family. But this is the Portuguese here as well. And then, they actually came, I think I'm finding a lot of cousins in the Senegambia area. And let me see if my camera, let me close down so y'all can see my camera at least. If my picture is big or not. So let me see if I can switch here. I don't know if y'all can see me on the screen or not. So I'm trying to make sure you can see me. Spotlight for everyone. There we go. All right. So some of the books that I have, just to let you know how I did some of this research. Okay, I'm sure. So this is the book. It's gonna be hard to see. Yeah, it's too light. I think it's too light. But this is the book that I showed before. Let me show you. I'll have to switch back and forth. Translate that to English. Show my screen. Share. Here. So this is the map that I showed you. This is a guy who basically, Dr. Derek Lang, he has a book. Let me see, might be able to get the book here. You see books. Yeah, here it is. So Ancient Kingdoms of West Africa, Africa centered and Canaanite Israelite perspective. So basically he went and mapped where he saw similar to what the Duke University professor did in 1930. But some of this book is in English, some of it's in French. But that helped me find some of the tribes there to start doing some of the mappings and figure out some of the migrations from some of the tribes that we talked about earlier. And then with how do I stop sharing again? I'm trying to stop having to go back and forth, but it's not working really well. Okay, sorry. So I don't even think I was sharing. Maybe I'm sharing now. So this is the book here, Ancient Kingdoms by Derek Lang. So that's where it's, talking about some of the maps and stuff that I have in some of my presentations that I've done over time. And then let me stop sharing again. All right. So hopefully some of these books will come up. I have to get them up here. Oh, get something. All right. Jews of the Sahara Oasis. Talking about how these were some of the Jews in the Algeria area, Black Jews, and how they were basically either forced to convert to Islam or, they migrated south, just like the other tribe that I told you in Tenderma. This is some more books about the Jews of North Africa, and they were, African Black tribes as well. This is the book that I was telling you about from the Duke University professor. That was, I said it was like $1,000. It wasn't $1,000 for me. No way I would buy a book that much. But it actually has pictures and stuff of some of the Black Jews, even in Harlem and places in Africa. This is actually a picture of the, which I think I might have it somewhere on my computer, make it easier to see. But that's the Yoruba Ben Ephraim tribe. He came from that tribe. So, and I think we just showed something today about how some of the African American groups in Suffolk and other areas actually have some traditions as well. So there's a lot of those. That's good information. They even have a book called The Black Jews. This is Edith Brewer. A lot of these books seem to be connected to people in Europe more than in America, doctors and stuff, professors in those areas, and some of them in French and stuff, so it's hard to read. But the Portuguese of in West Africa. So, wherever the Portuguese went, remember they were the ones doing the Inquisition, running after people. So you'll see some connections there with Black people being put in Angola and other places. Hybrid Hate. This is To the Prophet book, the guy that was talking about Limba. And he talks about a lot of the Limba tribes and other tribes that basically are showing hate. People are showing hate towards. But he also connects it back to the current day Jewish community as well. And he talks about the Limba of the Congo area. This is a good book, The Forgotten Diaspora, the Jewish communities in the West Africa and the making of the Atlantic world. They actually have maps and stuff in here. That's very helpful to kind of pinpoint some of the groups. So this is all important because once you start finding cousins and relatives and find out where they're from, the forgotten Portuguese, they even talk about Portuguese coming to North Carolina, like I was talking about the Lumbee and how they integrated with different Native American tribes. So, that's a great book right there. And this is Windsor, Rudolph Windsor, and the Babel of Timbuktu, where he's basically focused on a lot of the Black tribes that went to Africa and what happened after the temple fell in 70 AD. So this helps us to understand what's going on. And then we're able to link that back up with our DNA and migration paths. We get a better story of how to look at, to track it back. All right. So let me go back and just go back to my screen here. Any questions? Oh, somebody else entered oh, man, a minute. Oh. All right. Gotta let some people in from the waiting room. All right. So that's some of the books and stuff and materials there that we are reviewing and what we're doing. And just to show you as well, contributions and stuff. I have a young man who's helping me, him and his father. They're actually from India, and they are living here, locally, but they saw the need and wanted to help. And so they're not even, connected to African Americans at all, but they saw the great need and what was going on. So they stepped up to help me do some pulling of data, a web crawler to go across the web to find information that's hard to find. And what we're doing is tracking the tribes migration, and we're trying to make this available for everybody once we get it together. So you can see how certain tribes, well, I have certain hidden because it's I don't want to confuse you while I'm still working on it. But let me see. Elway. Okay. So Elway. Okay. So you can see this is the Elway tribe and their history, what they say they descend from, and how they migrated all the way across to West Africa, Ghana, Togo area. So they say that they, Elway, they say it means Hebrew. So their earliest traditions is that they come from that same places. You can notice a lot of the same tribes say they come from either Ethiopia, Sudan, the Elephantine Island, Memphis, those kind of areas, or Yemen. So most of the tribes that I've been saying, they come from one of those same places. So the migration pattern makes sense because, many of their stories are very similar. But also over here in this area, we'll see a lot more, the Algeria tribes, like I said, from the book. And, we try to put some information about Leo Africanus talks about the Jews that was in that area. Very similar. That's based upon the book about how they were destroyed. And then, this is one of the tribes that's called the Adashak tribe. And they are known to come from Algeria. And even if you click on this is, let me see if it comes up right. Yeah, so this is the Joshua Project, right? A Christian group that's trying to evangelize to a lot of the tribes that's there. And even says the Shahak tribe means the sons of Isaac, right? So Isaac is Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? So it's very interesting that they're aware of some of these tribes, and we're not aware of it, from our standpoint. And I think I closed it out. But yeah, so I'll just leave it at that because it might be hard to bring back up. So that's some of the stuff that we're doing with the donations that you give and things of that nature is to pull out Microsoft tools is helping us dig down into it. We're trying to expose it for our community because we know our community doesn't, one thing in our community, a lot of people don't read, right? Especially the reading level, some people are not as high. So we want to make sure that we're able to give them more visuals, more ways to interact with the data. And, once they know what tribe they're from, then they'll keep that name car. You can go around finding information about the T car and you'll be able to make a better relationship to the people over there as well as to their migration history also. All right, so let me close that one out. That one, that's the TCAR website. I just, said the same thing. So you can see on their own website, they say they come between Yemen and Palestine, right? So that's where I got some of their information from. Close out that. So this is actually a website where it's called Ancient DNA, where, the guy, I talked to him, he's actually Ashkenazi Jewish, but he believes that the DNA of other people in the Palestine or African region have, the true bloodline of the Israelites. And he basically is creating this website for people to take the test. So if you know about, what's his name, Fred Price Jr., Pastor Fred Price Jr. in California, he did his test and he popped up. So I took the test last year and I didn't know what I was doing. But after I figured it out, I found out, you have to take each one of the tests. So, they nickel and dime you as well. But I found out that my, based on their results, my DNA is, connected to similar with one of the bodies that, or, cadavers, I guess, that they pulled the DNA from. Right. So, based upon these different people, these are the different people, bodies that they just gave fake names to, and they basically associated to, our DNA. So right now, 29% of it, to Nika there. And you can find out their story, find out basically where the bodies came from. My name is Nika and I live in what is now Bethlehem. So very interesting that my DNA will be connected to somebody in Bethlehem that's from Judah. But my origin story was reconstructed by the ancient DNA scientists according to their knowledge of my people. So basically it's a false story based upon, they just made up some materials based upon what they found there. But, she was found in Bethlehem. So it's interesting, or she or he, which one is it? Sometimes they show a woman even though it's a man. Let me see if I find E1B1. Male, yes, a male. So connects back to a male that was living in that area. So, just goes back to show, and then the Levite tribe, so like the Buba tribe, say they came from the Limba tribe. That's less, but once again, there is some connections back to those bodies. So it's one thing to find DNA from Ancestry and 23andMe and so forth, because they're basically looking at people that's living right now that tells you what their DNA is. But when you're actually pulling it from the ground, it's a little different story, right? Because you got people that's living during that time period as well. And you can see even I was talking about with the different groups. So the TCAR people says, according to the oral documented history of the TCAR people, they originally in present-day Sudan is believed when they inhabited Sudan, they lived adjacent to two groups. The first group consisted of iron makers, blacksmiths, and carpenters in the Meroe Kingdom. Do I have that? But I'm connected to people in the Meroe Kingdom. So, this is how you're basically matching our ancestors to make sure our story is legit, because if, they're saying it and our DNA matches up with it, it seems like that, is too much of a common occurrence. But it says this group, ancestors of the Mende people, right? So, we saw Mende on my test, and I did take that very expensive test from Ancestry. And up there, it says that my maternal group, let me see if I can show it. Yeah, my maternal group comes from the Mende people living in Sierra Leone. So, we're getting all these hits of the same information. And if you saw the movie Amistad, I never seen Blood Diamond, but it's the same guy from my understanding. But this is the Mende tribe, and a lot of them actually did come to North Carolina as well. If you're at least in the North Carolina area, I know we got people all might be from India and everything else on the call today, but here in North Carolina. But you can see they left. They later left Sudan and moved to what? Lake Chad. So we talked about the Lake Chad area, right? They eventually traveled to the Mali Empire, with the town of Fulani and the Mandi, founded the kingdom of Meni. The second group, the Fulani. So the Fulani is important as well because they actually went all the way down to Senegambia area, and you will see some of my relatives that I found are from the Fulani group also. All right. So it's just to show you how we make some of those connections. Yeah, we already talked about living DNA. Now this is also another. Oh, did it log me out? No. So this is another test, genomelink.io. This when I was very beginning with this, I was playing around and I wasn't very happy with the first results that they gave me because it was very, it was very generic for the money. Let me see the first one that I took. Let's see if I can find it. I don't see it. So these are all the different reports you can buy. You can buy a whole bunch of different reports that connects you, to your bloodline. I don't even see the one they first gave me, which was so generic. But like this one will show the global ancestry. So it's kind of helpful to know, where your DNA might be. But, there's so many other tests that might can do that. But you can see how my DNA is basically across the whole world. You got the connection to the India, you got Southeast Asia. My cousin, she has South China, same area. And then you can see Near East, right? You can see North Africa, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa. And then you see the European areas where you can even see Iberia, right? Iberia is where I was talking about where the Black Jews were kicked out at the beginning of the slave trade, right before the slave trade started. And even some of these areas they were even sent into. So, some of them were, European that we mixed in with through slavery or whatever happened during those times. So we definitely would have, that's what makes it African American, is that fact that you do have some European during slavery, as well as Native American. So you can see up here, it still has my North and America and South American Native American, but you can see the percentages, right? It's not like it's a large amount and stuff, right? You see 0.1%, but this is, every test that I take seems like some of the tribes are totally, different, but like I said, they're still family tribes that I tell people to look at, and that way it will help you out to make sure that still on the right track. There's no test is going to be 100% accurate. All right. And then even with their other tests, they do, they got this new one. To me, this was interesting because it's totally different than all my other DNA tests. You can see they say Akan. They got some of the same tribes up here. It's just the percentages are totally different because Europa was number one for me on living DNA. So you got to know about who's doing the test and how many people that they're looking at. Like living DNA, they say that they're supposed to be having the most test samples in Africa, where some of the other samples might not have that many people from Africa. So that, your test results might be way different than many of the other ones. But you can still see they have Native American, in general. So this is a newer one though here as well. But one thing that they allow you to do, let me see on this one. Trying to talk about, I thought this is newer, but I thought they actually allow you to connect with people. They have a new thing now where they allow you to start connecting to people. They're still getting started, but one of the things that's good is that they're not allowed. They're basically breaking the line over the DNA test. So before, if you just take 23andMe, you only will get 23andMe people, right? Then if you take Ancestry, you have to take Ancestry, 23andMe, take all the GEDmatch and all this stuff. They're trying to mix them all together. So that way, no matter what test that you take, that they can still connect you to these same people, right? It's taking away that limitation once again, but it's new. So it's going to take a while before all these, for your database, because it says close match, only have one. So, you got to give it some time there. But until people actually get involved with it, you won't see much as well. And let me go back to some of the other reports. So they got the global one, the deep one. I just did that. They gave that one for free because I didn't expect me to have any Viking. But the Native American, I knew I had Native American, so it's interesting at least to see some of the stuff here. To connect it to particular Native American tribes here or close to particular tribes and how much percentage that I had there. So that's interesting. And then they have an ancient bloodline. I don't like this test, so I'm just telling you this just for a standpoint of you'll know what's happening. Um, I wouldn't say that this, me personally, I don't think this is worth, Genome Link is the best, right? For what I'm doing, yes, because I'm doing so many different groups and trying to generalize a lot. But for the everyday person, I wouldn't subscribe to a lot of this. There's better ways of doing this. All right. So, it talks about Japan. I have some connections and all these different ancient groups, but to me, it's not as good as some of the other ones I'm going to show you. Let me go to 23andMe. Here you can see, they have Igbo, they have Fula, Wolof people. So they tell you a little bit about some of the tribes. And I found, personally, I found at least the tribes and information. I can't say the percentages because I don't know what percentage, person is. But I found that theirs is pretty, accurate to help me to connect to some of the groups. And they have this new thing here where it actually allows you to look at the different regions and it starts to break down even similar to what Ancestry does, but allows you to break down some of the groups, and they actually have African American groups, right? So that's one of the things a lot of tests didn't really gear towards African Americans, but now they're gearing towards African Americans and connecting you to some of those groups as well. And it matters based upon the migration, because if you're trying to find, where you come from, you got to find, how your ancestors was traded across America or migrated across America, rather if they were free or enslaved. I have some family, one side that was free, and the other side that was enslaved, at least on my father's side. My mom's side very similar to the story I told you earlier. But you can see, they got at least a little bit more information. It's just not, helpful to me to drag down and find people that's connected and stuff. It's not. They have some limitations or some constraints, I think, because of what happened with the people's DNA being compromised. And people are always very concerned about DNA and compromised DNA. But I tell people, the fact that they can tell me I'm connected to somebody in Ghana, right, but can't tell me who, that lets you know they have somebody's DNA and they're not sharing you. I should be connected. I can find a lot of European cousins. Why can't I find African cousins when I'm mostly from Africa? Lets you know that they're selling people's DNA, right? Even our own DNA. You go to the hospital, it's being compromised as well. So I tell people it's best for you to know your results and what's going on versus somebody else's knowing, because they're saying there's supposed to be some new type of discrimination that there's coming based on DNA. So, but that's just that's so far in the future to me, and some things you can't stop anyway. All right, so that's at least Ancestry DNA. Okay, so let me get to the searching find. So this is basically the main part of the workshop, is to really define your African relatives. So one thing you have to do, that's why I told some of you, do not use your free test trial account until we're ready to do something with it. Because sometimes they'll give you this World Explorer. I didn't pay this amount, but I pay, they have sales on it now for like half off and stuff. But I think they even have it for like 1 month for like $30. So it will be helpful to have this. You don't have to have it. But what this will do will open up your range of people across the world versus just in America, right? And if you're looking for relatives in Africa, it's a good chance that the people who can afford the test will get the test. They're probably living in like the UK, right, areas. They're probably not getting a lot of tests within Africa. So it's probably people who left Africa. I'm finding there's a lot of people who left Africa, went to UK, or, even from the islands or something. That's where I find most of my they live here in America, right? They moved, their family moved, got up, and moved. I have a cousin in Maryland, and she is from the Senegambia. Well, her father descends from Senegambia, but he moved to Guyana, And then she was born somewhere in Sierra Leone. So her mom is from Sierra Leone as well, but I'm connected to her father's side also. But this helps with that because, if they take a test in the UK, now you can open up your range of people that you can access. And this is a pro tool. It's $10 a month. It's not really needed, but I'll show you. It is very helpful, track down family because, even if you find somebody, you got to get them to talk to you, right? Like, they got to be nice enough to share the information, which sometimes on Ancestry people won't share. So that's the first part to it is to, at least have a membership account because it's hard to do it without this membership. Even if it's a standard membership, go ahead and just get it for 1 month, and then cancel it at the end of the month, and you'll be good. But what you do, you go to this DNA and you go to matches. So this shows you all your family matches of people that you're related to and so forth. Shows some of my cousins and uncles and everybody else here, the closer people. And then then it goes to the extended family. So that's the reason why I wanted to make sure, I knew who was up here with the DNA stuff. Yeah, even though I don't know all of you, but at least know you by name now. But at least then what you can do is then do a search. And this is why it's helpful to get an account because it helps you to break down even by ancestor and so forth. But I think you can do this without a paid account. But you then think about a map of Africa. You can just Google a map of Africa. Map of Africa, right? Because you might not know all the names of all the countries because there's some small countries that people overlook a lot. Let me find a good one. This is decent enough. All right, so let me see if I can zoom in there. Come on, open up. Go back. I like Bing. Should have went to Google. Large visual. Okay, so this is good enough. So you can see, Mauritania, Mali, Niger, all these different countries, Democratic Republic, Angola. And you can take a map, and what you do is go to here and you search there, right? So I know some of the people, so I'm gonna put Liberia. So Liberia is where a lot of slaves got taken back to from UK. I think they try to send some from Nova Scotia and other places there, Canada. So, you might have some relatives there. You search for, so this is that anybody on their test, they have some kind of somebody coming from Liberia on their tree. So it doesn't mean that everybody will come up here because some people don't have a tree, but some people will have, their relatives from Liberia. So here you start looking, right? And you start seeing these names. So this looks like, English name, look like somebody from here, and that might be questionable. And, some people have their initials and stuff like that. And you keep scrolling. Just think about people in Africa probably be farther away connected to you. So like this lady, this sounds like some name that doesn't sound normal, right? At least not from America's standpoint. So I click on her, and then, here I can see, her origins. And here you can see that she's 100% African, right? She has no European in her. So like we said, European, Americans have a lot of European in them. There are some African Americans that have 99% African in them, which I found. But here you can see, she has a good amount of African in her. So there's probably a good chance she's African. And if you click on tree, sometimes it's private, but sometimes you click on the person's name, you can see Ghanaian, right? You see Liberia, right? So I know she has parents or grandparents, at least from that area. So now, this is a person you might want to contact, right? Because this is a person, and I did contact her. She's very nice and helpful. And then we can click on shared matches. And I think this is where you need a paid account. Might be mistaken. I've had one for so long. But this is the paid account. And then you can see other people that's connected, right, to her. And this is the $10 thing where you can actually see, people's family connection line. You can see how close they are paternal and how they actually are connected to these other people. Sometimes you'll find people who have a child or a parent or grandparent or aunt, and then you start making connection because now you got 2 or 3 different people that have the same DNA, and you're definitely connected to them, right? If they're all family, especially if they're from Africa. So, now I see another name like this, right? You see a name like this. So I know based upon history some of the names, right? So let's say you see Sal, right? So you just type in Sal, go to Google, say Sal, surname, origin. Let me see. Let me find something better than that. Okay. Sal, I'm just clicking on this. Sal surname not listed, but here it's showing, this part of Africa. There's a lot of people with that name. And Senegal, right, is the most frequency. So this is just so I hope I'm not putting a virus on my computer kind of thing. I'm not clicking on nothing, but you can see here that, that name comes from Senegal, right? So when I go back to here, and I click on it, and I click on the origins, what do I see? Senegal, 87%. There's a lot of, definitely from there, right? So you can see the name Sal, and then even you can do something like Google Sal tribe surname, maybe. Yeah, so it says West African Guinea from the name of Sal originally sold clan of Fulani or Tukulor names, right? So Tukulor and Fulani. And you can basically look up what a Tukulor is, right? Like we don't have to let Google help. Well, not Bing. I don't like Bing, but let's just click on Tukulor. So you can basically find just some basic information. Wikipedia, so it is Wikipedia. Some people like it, some people don't trust it, but at least gives you some kind of understanding of some of the history of what was going on. So the Tukulor people, and then you can actually find out a little bit more about them because they are connected to the Fula or the Fulanis. They're all the same people, and you'll start seeing some more information. I'm just trying to make this fast. Of course, it took me a while to read through some of this. So okay, let me see. Tukulor Empire, right? So that's the empire of people and where they basically rule in this area. All right, and then you can just read through some of the stuff here, and you can see that popular message along this cross section of in population of mid-century, including the Fula, the Soninke group that I talked about, the Moors. They're all interacting, right, together. So that's interesting, right? So, click on Soninke, and you can see how they actually mixed in with these people, with the Fulas and other people. The Mandi people, we talked about the Mandi people. So, you can kind of see how you can start connecting some of this stuff because the Soninke, they definitely come from, their migration say they come from Israel, that through the North Africa standpoint that we talked about before. So, you can read through some of these and then, so now I have a person from there and then I can click on her tree. Let's see. She only got 3 people on her tree. She only has one showing and this is somewhere in this area, right? So I know something about that area. I don't have a clue, without Googling it. So I can click on it. Oh, got Bing again. Get away from Bing. Google. Okay, so right here, it shows right here, showing my rural area in Senegal, right? So it talks about the different areas, the region. So sometimes the city will be too small, so I'm gonna click on the region. And here we get the region have the same names as the respective. It's also historic and popular as to commence, which, once again, I don't understand what they're talking about. So I and then you start reading through some of this information. It says according to local legends, Jola and Banuk people are said to have inhabited Kemetsi for over 1,000 years. Jola leaders ruled portions of Kemetsi, frequently under the normal rule of Wolof. Wasn't Wolof one of those groups we saw? Seer Kingdom. What is the Seer Kingdom? To the north. So it talks about some of these kingdoms that was in that same area. And then it says the Kemetsi was subject to both the French and the Portuguese. So remember I told you about my great-great-grandfather that was a black Portuguese, that was a miller. this is the family line that she's connected to. I know it's just based upon the people that I can look up in her search. I know my cousins, and I see the people that's connected to her. That's that same line of people. So, my family history, my great aunt told me that, or grand aunt told me that, our people, my great great grandfather said he came from Portugal. So it makes sense now. I'm seeing some of that area in there as well. So it gets even more interesting. Let me see. I did it earlier, so just for time's sake, I'm gonna show you. Let me see if I got on another tab. So let me just click on her. And this is where the $10 thing comes into play. So I can click on her. And now I know she's from Senegal. So I want to find out what matches I have that's connected to her, because she's 100% almost African from Senegal, right? So here I can basically look at the people that she's connected to. And here you can see, the first person I found, the first person here, I found Muhammad. That's a good chance that she's African. This name could be, let's just click on it and see. I'm finding more and more cousins, right? So it's making it easier for me to find cousins. And now I'm contacting them. Some of them responding, some are not. See, Mali, Senegal, North Central Nigeria. She's 100% African. I just found another African cousin. So this is how easy it is once you have the right accounts and stuff. So that's why I say make sure you do it make sure you set enough time so it won't be expensive. And it will take you, you get a whole month for your account to be active. So go in there, especially if it's the new one and it's free. And you go in there and click on it, and there you go. You can get some access to that. All right. So, this is just a quick way to do it, to find some relatives. And then the other thing that you can see is this app, this My True Ancestry.com. And this is where they actually, it's expensive. They nickel and dime you to death. But some of the donations that people, that's based upon that's been taking the test results and wanting to see their results, I can put up to 50 people in here. So, those that basically who give the donations and help, we just say, if you're interested in doing this, just let us know, and we'll, allow. What we said we'll do is that everybody just come up like, some special characters and numbers or something that it's your account, instead of putting your name in there. That way nobody else will know what your information is, and you'll be able to do some of this searching. It's all doing the reset on me here. I had it all up, but it actually is a slow moving site. So I was trying to have it up before we started, but let me click on it. And they're basically looking at archaeology digs all around, the world that they have access to. And that's what you're paying for, is each sample that they have, So that's the reason why I think it's good to go as a group. And, those people who are interested could easily, don't have to pay, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You just upload your DNA, and there you can get access, because that's what we try to do, is to make it accessible to our people. And even if you don't give donations, I should say, if you just give $20 or something for the ministry, it's tax deductible, and we'll give you the same access as well. But you can see here, this is my closest genetic, the closer the number is 3%. It says enslaved laborer, Cochin iron working furnace. Where? Maryland. Remember I told you about my East Indian relatives that got taken to Maryland and enslaved, and they were mixed with some of the Africans that was local. So it's very interesting that my DNA is very connected to this area. They did a big study on this area, and I'm supposed to be part of the test, but I haven't heard back from them. But so here they're actually connecting you to bodies, right, that was brought over in the slave trade. So this is where it gets interesting for us, because, we're trying to track our people, no matter if it's me or other people, to try to see how do we get over here. So this is a definite find that universities and people are doing studies on. So that's, you don't have to be a doctor to understand some of the information. And they have it publicly available. So let me see if I can find it, because I see my time is running out. Let me see. All right. So what I did is pulled all my different dig sites. So even here, when you click on this little eye, it basically tells you more information. You can go to the research link, and they'll tell you even the sample that they're pulling, right, from the dig site. So they'll tell you more information if you click on it. It tells you about the archaeology and the dig and all that stuff. You know, a whole bunch of boring stuff you have to read through if you're that interested. Um, but then what I have is this. I just basically dumped out all of the dig sites I'm related to and how close I am related to it. And then I found that they gave this information that tells you about each dig. So this burial two here, this is the person that they have a connection. They did a DNA. They're mostly Congolese. What is that? Lula, right? That's one of the tribes that we talked about, right? They have Igbo. They have Ewe, Shona as well. I didn't really talk about that. Akan, Yoruba, right? So these are some of the DNA things that we saw earlier, right? And when you see the burial site two here, if I go to Maine, this is the closest one I'm connected to. So now, as I get more information about this, I can tell, you know, how my people were migrated over here, at least some of my people, and what tribes I would definitely were connected to. And then does that reflect my DNA that I took, you know, on the other test, right? So this is some of the stuff we're trying to help people to do so we can get a better understanding of us, our migration as a whole. So this is number 6. See, Mendi, right? So that's the Mendi tribe. You see Yoruba, Isan, that was the same tribes that we showed earlier that people took. So 22 is my next closest tribe. Well, I'm really connected to all of them. It gets kind of funny when you get here. I don't know what happened here with these bodies, but you can see the closer ones I have, you know. So it helps you to now connect 7, right? How close am I to the 7? 7 here. I'm 4, very close in proximity to. So this is probably all these same family members that kind of came on the same boat or something, shipment of slaves. So, you know, I'm connected there, and you can see Congo, Ewe, Wolof, Mandinka. You saw all these in my DNA, right? So this is the type of stuff we're trying to help people do. And you know, even right here, this is what you can go in and do yourself. We just I'm thinking about us getting a common password, and then people just put some kind of code in where they don't know, you don't know who's DNA, and then you just go in here and you're able to do, you know, they got these little pictures and stuff, and you can see the closest ancient match for each one of these archaeology digs, see Yoruba and so forth. And that's when it starts getting interesting because let me just do it real quick since time's almost up. So I'm just clicking on this dig site and it says Lebanon, right? Isn't that Middle East? Lebanon's in the Middle East. So I click on the closest ancient map. What is this? Canaanite Semites. What is a Canaanite Semite? That's an Israelite, right? That's basically what the Bible says, that the Canaanites slept with the Shemites, and you know, Judah came out of that, the tribe of Judah. And you can see Jewish, you know, all these Jewish dig sites that I'm connected to. And this is just one of them. I just randomly just picked because I just know the code. I've done it so many times. And then if I click on, you know, Canaanite Shemite, it talks about, what is that? Kingdom of Israel. And it basically gives me a description of what the Kingdom of Israel is, right? It talks about the people from those areas. So, and I had it up, but I won't have time to do it today. But even, you know, different places like Egypt, right? People say we're Egyptian, but people don't realize the pharaohs were different as you went back. They had R1 DNA. And then they start having E1, B1 with the new kingdom, the new pharaoh. Right. So you can actually go up here and actually look at some of the royal DNA from certain regions. And up there, they'll show I'm connected to particular DNA. Oh, this is the wrong one. Particular DNA from some of those dig sites in Egypt. But then it will show you I'm not connected to some of the other kings, right? Some of the earlier kings. So, you know, we know that the Israelites actually went down to Egypt and lived among the people for a while. So they would have some mixtures of DNA there as well, right? Because they went down with 12 sons, Jacob, and they all had to marry somebody to come out with millions of people. So you know they mixed in with the Egyptians. So that's the reason why a lot of West Africans talk about their migration from Egypt and other places, because they were mixed in, because their DNA is not the same as some of the ancient Egyptians there as well. So hopefully this was helpful. I know I'm running out of time here, so I'm just trying to give you of what you can do. Another, just real quick, not want to press your time anymore, but you know, one thing would be very helpful, because as you actually go into Ancestry, let me just show you this and I'll end it here. Um, let's see, where is my ancestry? We have to my tabs. There we go. Ancestry. So, even on your tree, I got, I help different people. So, and if, some of y'all been helping, thing you can do is actually give me access to some of your DNA, as some people have already done. And that way I'll be able to understand, how the people that you're connected to are connected to other people. It's kind of hard to do it without it. I tried without it, and sometimes, some of the records are not correct. But every time you go to your tree, as you're building, in my tree, I got like thousands and thousands of people. So I think I got 2,000 people now. So you can do find in tree, list all people here, and it will bring down. And what I did was just copy all these people. I just kept on copying, and then I paste them into like an Excel file here. So now it's easier for me to find somebody if I'm looking for somebody from like the Maryland area, right? Anything that has Maryland in it, now I can easily search and find all the people from Maryland that I'm connected to, right? Without having to, it's a pain to do it within the tool. So there's little cheats that you can do. Let me see, Jamaica. I think I have I think he's married into the family, but Greenfields, I got a lot of Greenfield people. So he's from Jamaica, right? So Duplin County here in North Carolina. So we got a lot of Duplin County people that I'm related to. That's where a lot of my family came from. And you can see the connection to Jamaica and other places. So, there's some cheats that you can do as well in order to, make it easier for you to navigate. Because my whole goal was to find a connection of the migration over to from Africa to the Middle East. That's my whole goal. Also, I met a lot of great family members on the way as well. That's been very helpful for us to build together. And, some of them, like I said, some of y'all know I met the cousin from Vietnam. He didn't know any family. I was the first relative, and we found his family members. So it's been a nice little journey along the way, finding people in India and all the other places. Just remarkable because we're so diverse as a people. But that was my goal, was to, first build my tree all the way up from all the grandparents and all the people that I can go as far as I go. And then I was able to build it out. So that's what I would recommend, depending on, if you're trying to be very accurate, I don't recommend you doing that way, step by step would probably be better. But, I'm very busy, so I won't have time to do a lot of the step by step. It would probably take me forever to do it if I did it that way. So I just basically built my tree and just put, find little old family reunion books and all that kind of stuff. And I just went as farthest up as I can. And then, I looked at people hints and stuff and try to see if they had any relationship to me. They actually will show like these little things are hints here. But I knew some of the parents and stuff. And then you can actually have what they call through the lines, which sometimes you got to be careful with. But it will show you other people that might be connected to you in DNA that has that same lineage. And that helps out a lot because now you can tell somebody has the same DNA. It might not be your great grandma, it might be your great grand uncle or something. But, if I'm just focused on going up, then you can find a lot of people. So there's a lot of tools. I won't go into all that. Maybe that'd be a future workshop. But any questions? I know I shared a lot, but if you're interested in me helping you or something, always feel free to reach out. Always make it, especially with all the people that's helping us helping us with this. I appreciate, me finding out and sharing your family history helps us to see, vet out about the, how many African Americans is this unique to a particular African American or not? My family history, my DNA, is it so unique where, my family just was the odd, or if everybody starts to find this same pattern, then we know there's something special more than what they're telling us, through schools and education institutions where they're trying to stop, especially in North Carolina, how they're making it, legal for CRT, critical race theory, saying they can't teach certain history, right? So this is ways to find out our history and make sure it's vetted out. And this is a great way to do that, is working with one another and be able to find our history, our family history, especially since many of y'all, I didn't even know y'all were cousins until we looked at DNA. Even though I met some of you, I didn't know we were cousins until we looked at our DNA. So it just shows you once again how they breeded a lot of slaves, right? A lot of slaves came from, just through the slave trade, and they moved us all around the country. So a lot of us are related, and families were sent to other places, and this is a way that helps us to get back together. But we can end it here. And like I said, if you want to have more information, or if you want some of the materials to go through it yourself, just write us at the outreach at mamleketkohanim.org, and I'll send it to you. Or I can by default send it to everybody. I was going to add that last part about GEDmatch, so you can see your DNA results and how they look, everywhere else. Okay, I'll send you the material. I was just sending it out by default to everybody that was on the meeting. Rather, if you that way, everybody can have it if you're interested as well. All right. I hope you all have a great time for the rest of this weekend, and stay safe, and reach out if interested in learning more. We have met with people even in Georgia. Some guy called me and we just went through DNA because, to me, it's a passion for us to know who we are. And until we can stand firm and confident in knowing who we are through DNA and genealogy, that way nobody can take it away from us, right? So that's my goal, is to let people know how important we are. There's all these people around the world talking about African Americans being connected to the children of Israel, and it's through history. So if you go and look at some of our Shabbat services, you'll see at the very beginning where we talk about, play videos and just show you how they talk about us. And we don't know. So they say a lot of our issues in our community is identity. And because we don't know who we are, young men don't know who they are. They don't feel like they're worth anything, so they go and commit crimes and do. I used to be a youth and young adult pastor, so I can see that. But once you tell them, empower them that you are somebody, you're not just somebody who came out of the jungle that was enslaved and taken from Africa, right? That you were, very wealthy people, even some kings and stuff that was taken to Spain and Portugal from the line of King David that was sent to us through slavery. There's a lot of that when you start looking at the history. It's amazing, really, it really is. And it helps our children not to feel like they're inferior to anybody, not saying they have to feel like there's some like supremacy type of thing, but they need to be able to walk with their heads high as well as we do and be able to pass it down to future generations. All right. Well, you all have a good night, and have many blessings, and shalom to you all.